and it blessed us with a refuge in which to live.
A few years ago, audiences of every age were blown away by an instant hit when Disney's Encanto premiered. The film introduced a score of new characters to love, a complicated story about overcoming generational struggles, and a soundtrack that's still widely considered one of the best among recent animated films. There hasn't been another release as successful as Encanto, so it's no surprise that a sequel is officially in its earliest stages of production. I loved Encanto and look forward to watching the Madrigal's next adventure. Since we have very little to go off of right now, I'd like to use today's video to theorize the different things we could see in Encanto 2.
They were just asking about the family and...
She was about to tell us about her super awesome gift!
Number 1. Mirabel leading family Madrigal. In the first Encanto, we're introduced to the magical Madrigal family, who receive their abilities from their home casita once they come of age. However, the film's main protagonist, Mirabel, doesn't receive power like the other family members. Instead, she tries to help the rest of the Madrigals and her community however she can, doing various chores and activities around their home to help things run smoothly. She adores her family and takes pride in everything they do for the Encanto, but she can't help wondering why she was kept from her special gifts. Alongside Mirabel's struggles, other family members are fighting personal battles that strain the love and connection that once empowered the Encanto. These battles cause their home to fracture and lose its power. Mirabel is the only one who notices these changes and takes it upon herself to save their home before it's too late. During her journey, she manages to help various family members, including her sisters, her cousin Dolores, and her uncle Bruno. Many fans believe in the theory that Mirabel didn't receive powers because she was meant to take her grandmother's place as the head of the family to lead the Madrigals and the rest of the Encanto in an unbiased position. Others believe that her connection to Casita is her power, as she interacts with the sentient house more than her relatives and restores it at the film's end by replacing the doorknob. Regardless of the theories or their credibility, it's clear that Mirabel was always meant to bring her family together, and we should see more of this in the sequel. Mirabel is the glue for holding the Madrigals together, so she should resolve conflicts, anticipate their needs, and keep their best interests in mind when making decisions for the Encanto. It's a leadership role unlike any other, but it's all the more personal as her choices will directly impact the people closest to her. Number 2. The Next Generation. Disney isn't afraid to time-skip a few years for a sequel. In The Little Mermaid: Return to the Sea, Ariel has a preteen daughter desperate to connect with the ocean. In the more recent Moana 2, we discover that our favorite Wayfinder has a younger sister who idolizes her who didn't exist in the first film. There's a good chance that Encanto 2 would take the same approach to their story, bringing the Madrigal family ahead a few years to make the plot more interesting, give them different conflicts, and change the household members. When I consider a time skip, the first thing that comes to mind is Alma's death, which could occur before the film starts or at the very beginning, perhaps during the opening credits to kick off the story's primary conflict. Much of Alma's journey in Encanto revolved around her grief and how it fueled her desire to protect her family. Mirabel's story in Encanto 2 could easily parallel this after losing someone close to her for the first time, the backbone of the Madrigals and the person who had guided Mirabel's every decision for most of her life. The time skip would also allow new Madrigals to debut. At the end of the first film, there's an indication that Dolores and Mariano will get together and may have children. It's also possible that Luisa and Isabella have found partners or have had children of their own, leading to several new characters to introduce to the franchise. These new characters could have a significant role, as Mirabel could spend the film helping them discover their gifts' purpose in the community.
Wow, sorry, that snuck out there. What I meant was, why would anything be wrong?
Number 3. Bruno reconnecting with others. Aside from Mirabel, Bruno is the most popular character in the film. With his ability to see the future, his predictions were often honest and not taken lightly. When he told someone an unfavorable fortune, they turned against him, treating him as a villain. His family did the same, eventually forcing him from their home when Mirabel was too young to remember. For most of the film, the audience is led to believe that he's the story's true villain, but as it turns out, he fled to protect Mirabel and the rest of his family from his visions. It's easy to love Bruno. He's awkward, kind, and wants the best for everyone. Although Casita gave him the most powerful ability, Bruno was still ostracized by his family, like Mirabel, and gradually pushed out because he didn't fit their perfect image. He only returns to his family because Mirabel sought him out, and he was able to form a connection with her. I hope that the connection continues to grow as their story continues. continues. Despite hiding in the halls of his family home, Bruno missed the childhoods of his youngest niece and nephews, so he has to make up for lost time. There's also an emotional scene between him, Peppa, and Julieta when he returns, where he shares a heartfelt hug with his sisters. It's clear they have missed him greatly despite their falling out, and they likely deeply regret any ill will toward him. I would like to see them overcome their differences and heal these old wounds when Encanto 2 premieres. More than that, I would love it if Bruno had the chance to speak with his mother about her expectations of him, because there was much left unsaid at the end of the last film that could be very emotional if properly explored.
I feel like I missed something important.
Come on.
Number 4. A new threat for the Encanto. There is only one major thing keeping Encanto 2 from being a massive hit like the original film: the existence, or lack thereof, of a villain. The first film framed Bruno as the villain for most of the story, giving Mirabel a tangible goal to work toward. However, the actual conflict was the rising tension between her and her grandmother, whose control over the family directly impacted their happiness. I enjoy films with personal or emotional conflicts more than those with villains, but they always leave sequels or franchises in questionable positions. Encanto 2 could threaten the Madrigals and the community, but that's not what the brand is known for. Instead, fans expect an introspective and moving narrative about the inner workings of a multi-generational family and how their individual experiences can clash or come together harmoniously. Many conflicts were scattered throughout the first film, but each was indirectly caused by the family trying to meet Alma's expectations and maintain the Madrigals' pristine image. If Mirabel does become the new head of the family, like many suspect, I doubt the same conflict will arise, as she encourages her family members to embrace their happiness where they can. Instead, a new conflict must arise to threaten the Madrigals' peace or test their resolve. I think the loss of Alma would be a fantastic narrative to dive into on multiple fronts. Still, there's more than one way to write a compelling, emotional, and thought-provoking narrative without a tangible villain. Disney is starting to become an expert at it. Look at films like Inside Out and Turning Red as prime examples.
A little sisterly advice. If you weren't always trying too hard, you wouldn't be in the way.
Number 5. Changes in the casita. As a brief addition, I expect the casita to change throughout Encanto 2. The house is already sentient, capable of moving and communicating of its own accord, meaning it could probably update and alter rooms at will, but it's also magic. In the first film, we see entire spaces dedicated to specific family members, like Antonio receiving a rainforest and Isabella a bedroom full of flowers. However, the casita is rebuilt from the ground up at the film's end, with every community member doing their part. I suspect their influence will be felt throughout the Madrigals' family home through design choices, entirely new rooms, or a change in Casita's personality. I was glad to see Mirabel and Alma make amends at the end of the first film, as her grandmother seemed to pass on the torch and leave their family's well-being in capable hands. It's only natural the sequel would find the Madrigals during a new chapter in their lives. Through magic, peril, and transformative moments, I expect to see Mirabel and her family continue to be the inspirations in their community adores, while also respecting the character developed from the first film, where they thrived after letting others in and accepting their help. There's little doubt that the sequel will show us the positive changes that came from sharing their true selves with the rest of the Encanto.
Has been to use our blessings to serve this beloved community.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and turn on notifications to stay updated on our uploads.
When me and your Tio Felix married into the family, outsiders who had no gift never ever would.